Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we are going to look at all of the cards for the next expansion in Hearthstone, Journey to Unguro. I'm both live streaming this late, and I am going to chop up this live stream into smaller, more manageable sections that I will post, I suppose, as soon as I can. Probably the next day in hourly segments. So I'm going to be recording in that fashion, starting really late in the evening for me at 10:06 p.m. I should have done this at noon, but insomnia and other problems certainly I fell victim to. But you're not here to know about that, you're here to know about the cards. So we're going to go through each of the character classes, and then I'm going to pretend like I'm ending the show in the live stream, ending the recording in the live stream, so I can break it up later. So we're going to look at all the Druid cards, basically just say what they are, and then give my general impressions if I have any general impressions. A lot of weight is falling on the shoulders of Blizzard this time. This expansion needs to be really good to bring people back into wanting to play this game, because a lot of people aren't really happy with the meta right now. The pros aren't happy, the amateur players aren't happy. So we're hoping for big changes, and I think we might see it. So for Druid, new cards, we have first a 1-mana spell called Earthen Scales. Give a friendly minion +1/+1, then gain armor equal to its attack. So that's very interesting, because that's already doing something we've never seen before. And I think that's actually going to be very helpful, particularly since it's giving armor to a Druid, when usually it's, I believe, the warrior that has the ability to gain armor, and I don't think very many other cards give armor to any of the other characters. I should say that if you put comments down below, I'm not going to respond to them in this stream until the very end, so sorry about that. Just because this is more of an effort to try to have something that's useful for people later on. Next card, we have a 1-mana epic, no, if it has a dragon, it's called a legendary. Yeah, it says it right there. A spell called Jungle Giants. Quest, summon 5 minions with 5 or more attack reward. 5 or more attack reward, Barnabas. So they're introducing this new concept of quests. You play this ideally at the beginning of the game, and then you have to match the quest requirements before you get Barnabas. So at that, you would almost assume that Barnabas is going to be an amazingly powerful legendary card, but until you actually see what Barnabas is, which this is a problem that was kind of prevalent in a few cards before this, and it's just getting worse, is they definitely need a second card right here that shows what Barnabas is. Because I bet more than likely there isn't a card that we can see called Barnabas, so you're just going to have to memorize that. And we already have too many non-craftable cards that magically get created in this game, and no way to look at them. For the ability to summon 5 minions, Barnabas is going to have to be one of the most powerful cards ever, because you're talking your 5th turn, maybe your 4th turn if you have a coin, and then your 6th turn and 7th turn. So if you 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th, and then 8th turn, again, to play 5 minions with 5 things, you're talking, well, 5 turns that you would have to sacrifice, or at least work towards that goal. And I don't even know if that summons the character Barnabas, or if it just gives you a card of Barnabas that might be maybe a 0-mana card. So there's a lot of questions there, but very interesting. And I guess you could get really messed up if there's a bunch of quest cards, but I wouldn't be surprised if we only see 1 or 2 quest cards per character and no neutral quest cards. Next card we have is a 2 mana, 2 attack, 2 health creature called the Tortolin Forager. Battlecry, add a random minion with 5 or more attack to your hand. So you kind of already see that there's some synergy happening here. I want to see a lot more synergy happening between cards with the new expansion, because there's been a lot of cards that don't really work that well to make a good deck. And I definitely need to improve all of my decks, because last expansion, I made all of the decks around the concept of trying to finish quest as fast as possible. And it may have helped a little bit in that aspect, but it severely hurt in the ability for my decks to actually succeed. So in the deck rebuilds that I'll be doing once these cards become available and I open 50 packs plus, I'll probably open somewhere around 55 card packs, which should get me about half of the entire collection. I'm going to do deck rebuilds for every single character, and I'm hoping to see some major improvements. The next card we have here is a 3 mana, 5 attack, 1 health beast, and that has a battle cry. If you're holding a minion with 5 or more attack, adapt. This new key phrase, adapt, will prove to be interesting, but again, you don't really know what it's going to do. I don't know if adapt turns this to a 5/2. I don't know if adapt turns this to a 6/2, or maybe it turns it to a 5/5. I wouldn't be surprised if adapt turns it to a 5/5. It probably would also, in the process, increase the cost when it adapts. That way, if this card gets sent back to your hand, you can't play it cheaply a second time. Maybe that's part of the strategy, maybe it's not. If it either way is almost the same, though, because if you send it back to his hand, you would still need to be holding a 5 to get the battle cry to happen again. But I would like to see the cost increase if the card changes. That way it becomes a completely different card. And this is a beast, and so for my beast deck, when you get quests to play beast cards, this is something I definitely will consider in the expansion. Next we have a 4 mana spell called Evolving Spores that adapts your minions. So we already have a key phrase that says evolve your minions, and so now there's 2 different things you can do to it. And when you do evolve, it just takes all the cards and makes them a random version of that card that costs 1 mana more. So a 4 mana card becomes a random 5 mana card, and there's really no connection between what the 4 mana card was and what the 5 mana card is. It'll just be any random creature that costs 1 more. Adapt, I imagine, doesn't do that. I imagine adapting all of your minions will either have some minions that can't adapt, or they've made special versions of every single card, or adapting is something more simplistic than what I'm thinking it is, where it just increases the health or something. It might be something crazy. It might double the attack. It might double the health. It might add taunt to everything, but it's probably not just going to be adding taunt, because then that's something you could have already said without the phrase adapt. Next card we have is the 4 mana, 3 attack, 3 health creature called the Shell Shifter. Choose 1, transform into a 5/3 with stealth, or a 3/5 with taunt. Now there is, under the Druid, a legendary card that has all of your choose 1 abilities do both. There is a strategy there to play that legendary card, and then this would turn into a 5/5 with taunt and stealth, is probably how that would work. It's a little ambiguous. I've played decks like that before with that legendary card. It's kind of hard to play, though, because you're building an entire deck around 1 card, and if they kill that 1 card, then all your other choose 1 options become a little less powerful than you would like. but getting more options is sometimes helpful. But I've never seen it become a meta deck style of play. Not that I follow the professionals on how they play Hearthstone. Next card we have is a 5-mana spell called Living Mana. Transform your mana crystals into 2/2 minions. Recover the mana when they die. This is an interesting card. I should also mention the ones that are blue because if they were unlocked right now, I could use my dust to craft those cards. It would be a bad move because I don't have that much dust, and I should save it up till I have 1600 dust to craft legendary cards, which are much harder to get. But that's why they're blue. This is an amazingly interesting concept. It's something we haven't seen before in Hearthstone. You transform your mana crystals into 2/2 minions. So for 1 mana, you're effectively summoning a 2/2 creature. But then you're also losing all of your mana. So if you played this on the 5th turn, you would get 5 2/2 creatures on the field if there was enough room for it. If you played it on your 7th turn, you would get 7. If you played it on the 8th turn, you'd still only get 7 because you can only have 7 creatures on the field, and so on and so on. So 9th turn, 10th turn, anything like that, not that useful. And the way this is phrased, I don't know if it means you can only transform your unused mana creatures, crystals into creatures, or all your mana crystals, because this card could play 2 different ways. It could be that you have to actually wait till your 10th turn, spend 5 mana to play the card, then use the other 5 mana to get 5, which would make it not very good as far as the spell. Or you could play it maybe on your 5th turn and then get 5. So there's a vast, depending on how this works, this could either be a great 5th turn card or a terrible 5th turn card, useless 5th turn card. But the concept certainly is strange. If they sent the creatures back to your hand, I imagine you don't get your mana crystals back. And even if that is the case, even if you do keep them on the field, you've got to kind of kill them very fast, or you've got to win the game right there. This is a like last turn style of card to play. Otherwise, you're going to have to suffer through your 6th turn only having 1 mana crystal. And interesting gamble card there. Moving on, I don't want to hover over the cards too long. We're going to have to play them before we know if we really like them or not. We have a 5 mana, 5 attack, 4 health beast called the Verdant Longneck. It has a battle cry to adapt. So just as it's played, it's adapted. And the thing about battle cries is there's really no strategy or cards that stops a battle cry from working. If you can spend the 5 mana to summon this creature, the battle cry instantly happens after that. There are a couple of cards that might react differently because they might react to the fact that the card battle cries, but you're almost certainly going to get this adapt. So whatever the adapt does is going to be a big deal. And it's a beast, so that's helpful. And the next card we have is a 7 mana, 5 attack, 3 health creature called the Giant Anaconda. It's a beast. It has a death rattle to summon a minion from your hand with 5 or more attack. Alright. And then the final card we have for Druid is the 10 mana, 12 attack, 12 health beast called the Tyrantus. Legendary card. Can't be targeted by spells or hero powers. So this 12/12 is not too different from what we've already seen, but I think it's slightly better because the other dragon we have that is a 12/12 has, I think, a side effect of making you either destroy all the minions on your field or discarding your hand or both. So to get this super high attack and health, you don't really have to pay any penalty other than the 10 mana. And so that's the Druid cards. There's not a lot on the specific class cards here. You can see it's only 6 for the expansion. The vast majority of the cards will be neutral cards, and we'll make a separate video at the end in which we go through all of that. So that's going to be it for this recording, but stay tuned for the live stream. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to friend or follow me on basically any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.